Morning. I'm back. Got to start the morning with a rant. Got to start the morning. I got a question. Why is it that most men think they can fight better than what they can? Why is that? And in some cases, I mean drastically overestimate their fighting ability. There was actually a study done on this. I can't remember the college that did it, but you can Google it. And they polled men on their belief of their fighting ability versus their actual skill and training. And they said that 90% of men overestimate their fighting ability. And as somebody who runs a nationally known fight club, who's been around fighting my whole life in one capacity or another, I can tell you that's 100% true. Men, as probably not all of them, there's a small percentage that don't, but a lot of men vastly overestimate their ability. And you're going to find this more in guys who don't train, okay? Guys that have been in gyms a lot and sparred a lot and fought a lot, they kind of find out what their level is, and they get comfortable knowing what their skill set evolves to and what it is and what it's going to be. But when you take people that have never really fought before or fought once or twice, trained a little bit, oh man, it's different. And what I found also, you take somebody who hasn't trained for a long time, like by a long time I mean 5 years or more. You take somebody like that, let them train just a little bit, and then give them a win or two, and I mean their head explodes. They blow up, they just mentally, they think there's something they're not. And look, in fighting, you gotta have confidence. You do. You gotta have confidence. You know, those guys that fight at the highest level, they have to believe they're the best and that nobody can beat them, right? But I see men who barely have ever trained, had one or two fights that really believe they're Conan the Barbarian. And I want to say this. Listen, I know for me, I've managed to keep myself pretty grounded and humble. You know, I know what I can do, what I can't do. I know about where my skill level lies, and I'm comfortable with that, you know. But I can tell you, there's folks out there walking the street right now. Hear me on this. People walking the streets right now who have never consistently trained, have almost no organized fights, that believe they could beat John Jones, believe they could knock out Anthony Joshua.
Knocking out somebody's way harder.
But you know, I'm going to tell you, honest to goodness, the folks that think like that, you hear that old saying, that guy just needs a good ass whipping. That's a lot of times what it is. Sometimes a person just needs to get their ass kicked to humble them so they can find out where they are and where they aren't. Listen, I cannot count the times that somebody's came to the yard, fought once, twice, maybe 3 times, won them, and you visibly see the change. Like they start to really thinking they're just, you know, UFC champion material, heavyweight boxing champion material. They can't be beat, so on and so forth, okay? And then they don't realize that their fights are going to start getting tougher because they're winning. And when they finally get a tough fight, they lose. I can't explain to you the dramatic, it's almost like their whole world collapses. Because they got to this point where they really believed they were some kind of destroyer. But it was because they weren't really fighting nobody. Now, I'll tell you this. The guys that I've met that have the biggest false egos about fighting are guys who had 1 or 2 fights in high school that they won. They'll be 35, 40 and thinking about these fights they had in high school and thinking, man, I did this or that. I'm a bad motherfucker. I could win a UFC fight. Or the guys who have gotten in a couple fights at clubs with drunks who are barely standing up. You steal on them and knock them out. Suddenly you're Mike Tyson. You know, or maybe had one fight with their neighbor or their brother that they won and they think, man, I'm a real destroyer. But in reality, and I did plenty of street fighting and prison fighting, and I can tell you this, nothing like that tests you until you're squared up with somebody who also wants to fight, who's also in shape, knows they're there to fight, and y'all fight it out. And I've only had a couple of those in the streets. For the most part, street fights are a joke. They're more dangerous because people will pull weapons, jump you, etc. But it's not the same level of fighting as a fight where your opponent is there and wants to fight you. But I want y'all to tell me, why are people so delusional about fighting? Play Jay, I'm waiting on you, by the way. Gym in the yard is open. You're probably the most delusional I've ever met. You should come get this work, homie. Hey, y'all. Love you. There's only a handful of y'all going to watch these at first. I appreciate you tuning in. See y'all soon. Peace.